there's a lot of radio stations out there, traditional and non-traditional. Internet radio has increased a lot over the past 6 years. And when we mean by internet radio stations, like if you don't know what that is, they are specific to the internet. You can't hear them in your car. You got you go to the computer. There's a website. One example would be Blog Talk Radio. You can host your own show from there. Also, there's WS Radio that I've heard of. And then there's Talk Zone. Just a few examples. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. You can basically set up your own show fairly quickly. And you get paid, if you're really good, I guess you can get paid a little bit. Not as much as the big time performers. Of course, then there's also satellite radio with Sirius Radio and XM Radio. The ones that you pay for, but it's got all the big time names like Howard Stern and who else? Oprah. I think Oprah's got a show on Sirius. And Rosie O'Donnell, Martha Stewart, a lot of celebrities on there. Sirius is awesome. I'm subscribed to it. That's my opinion. I don't know if everyone else is subscribed to it. But basically, they're the big names in the entertainment world that have their own radio show. So radio isn't just radio anymore. There's a lot of competition out there. It's fairly healthy. And the key point to radio is a key show, a concept. You're striving for a certain audience, if you will. But I'm thinking some radio show ideas, they aren't so good. There's many of them out there, but I'm thinking of some that aren't very good. Maybe it'd be a bad idea to do this on the radio, like personality or concept. And I got a good list here of what should not be on the radio. This is my opinion of what should not be on the radio. Now, the first on the list, Twin Speak Radio. Now, if you're wondering what this is, you know how you have twins and they speak their certain language, like they speak in tongues, or they jibber jabber, like beep 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 beep. If you have twins, you know what I'm talking about. I think Kate from Kate Plus 8, I think all of her kids are twins, or a few of them are. I don't know if they all are. And anyway, they have that language that I've heard. I've seen it myself. That wouldn't be a good idea for radio, because I think twins would listen to it, but there ain't that many twins in America. Maybe it might be in the thousands. It'd be a very low rated show, and no one would know what the heck you were talking about. They wouldn't understand the words coming out of your mouth. Kind of like this next idea for a bad radio show, the Chris Tucker radio show. Now, Chris Tucker, if you remember him, he's the lead actor from the Rush Hour movies from the late 90s. He's a funny guy, but he's got an interesting speaking voice. You know that high shrill voice of his? Like, hey, man! He always says man in all of his movies. Man! Man! Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth, man? See how annoying that is? That'd be bad. He should stick to comedy. I don't think his radio show would be good, especially if he always goes, man. So, anyway, another rejected idea would be the American Idol Rejects radio show. People like William Hung and past performers, well, they tried to audition for American Idol. They would go see Simon Cowell and all the other judges, and they suck up the joint. They were terrible, like William Hung. And then they have their own radio show. You play songs like of their auditions, or maybe they even have their own talk show. Imagine William Hung, him talking on the radio. I did the best I could. I'm William Hung. That's all I did. I have no previous training in college radio, Daniel. So, that's that. That's American Idol Reject Radio for you. Now, there's also Santa Claus Radio. The reason why this would be a bad idea for a radio show with Santa Claus, I guess the whole idea for Santa Claus, he delivers toys to the kids, but he's got a list.
Boy, or Daniel, you were a good boy. You were a very nice boy. You have a really good college radio show. I'm gonna give you a little toy radio car to play with this Christmas. A lot of nitpicking. A lot of kids get upset over that, finding out they weren't on the list. So I think it'd be a bad idea for a radio show. But anyway, now another bad idea for a radio show would be Texas Holdem Radio. It's fun to watch on television, but it'd be really boring to listen to on the radio. Like waiting for someone to tilt, or to knock on the wood, or say, I'm all in. There's really not a lot of talking, a lot of thinking. And of course, thinking is not good for radio. So Texas Holdem would be a bad idea.
And now you got spoiled brat teen radio. It's like those girls that they have rich parents, and they get everything that they want, and they're spoiled brats. They're not very good people either. And imagine them having their own radio show. Be like, "Ooh, hey girlfriend, my mom bought me this car. My mom bought me this radio show, and I got more ratings than everyone. All my homegirls, we're gonna listen to this show." Ugh, that would be a bad idea. Spoiled brat teen girl radio. That'd be so awful. I think radio wouldn't last very long. That show wouldn't last very long. There's a lot of them in the world, but they wouldn't make good radio shows. I'm trying to think what else I can do to make fun of them. Mommy, this microphone's got dust on it. They have butlers, I think. Mommy, where's my butler? Hey butler, you're fired. You got my microphone all dirty. Alright, I gotta move on. It's getting strange. Anyway, now we got depressed widow radio. Imagine someone like you had a husband or even a wife that just died, and they based a radio show based on that subject. That would be so depressing. I mean, it's sad when someone loses somebody, and making a show around it would be a bad idea. I can just see it now. He was such a good husband, and he was such a good father to my children. I can't go on. Where's the next bridge? I'm in it all right now. Yeah, that's depressed widow radio. Get rid of that. Bad idea. And now you got drill sergeant radio. Drop and give me 10, Daniel. You ain't doing your radio show right. I can't yell that way. If you know anything about drill sergeants in the Army, if you served overseas, and you have people that you gotta take orders for, they have that voice. They don't. Hey, drop down and give me 10. Yeah. That would not be good for radio. Imagine the drill sergeant shouting the whole radio show for the whole 2 hours, just yelling. Bad idea. And then I got a few more left on this little list of mine. Farmer radio. Farmers, if you will. I think they would make bad radio show hosts because all they do is farm. They milk the cows in the morning. They bale the hay. They plant corn and they kill chickens. And they base the radio show. Like I can. Alright, my name is Farmer Daniel, and our subject today is killing chickens. What type of knife should you use when chopping off the head of a rooster? And then also, on another subject, be like checking eggs. Like, alright, here's how you check to see if the egg is good enough to eat for breakfast in the morning. You crack the egg on the side, and then you smell it, and then you get a knife and you peek through the oil areas. Yeah, it's bad. I don't think farmers would be good. What else could they talk about? All they know is farming. And of course, last one on my list is the Glenn Beck radio show. I tell you, that Glenn Beck is so silly. Wait a second. Too late. Never mind. He already has one, so I can't argue with that. Anyway, so that's my list of what should not be on the radio. But most other ideas are good ideas. Maybe. Thank you for listening to tonight's show. This show's going to be so great. The debate is coming up really soon. And since I got through my little opening segment, if you will, if you can call it that, I got a music selection tonight. I'm going to take you guys on a journey tonight with my music selection. With radio, a lot of great hits, and we are back with Ohio's on Fire. It's now time for a roundtable debate on the radio performance tax. And the first guy I want to introduce, he is known as L. Ron in the Dayton, Ohio area, but he is from the band In Thorns. He is the baddest man in Dayton, Ohio local music. At least he self-proclaimed to be that way. But say hello to everyone home, Ron Ladd.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing tonight?
Yes, El Ron, of course, that's Spanish for the Ron, in case you didn't figure that out. So that's him. And we got a little bit of bad news. Our other participant, Tyler Herman, he was supposed to be debating this contest. He has not shown up to the studio yet. He was supposed to be against the radio performance tax, and El Ron, he is actually in favor. So we had two opposing sides. I guess what we can't. He will speak his mind, of course.
That means
Elron.
I win.
Well, not quite, because I have a contest. You guys at home can vote still, and I'll even come in with my own. I guess I can help Tyler Herman some. Make this I have questions I gotta ask him, so I'll do the best I can. I want you to spend some time in a nutshell. Tell me why you're in favor of the radio performance tax. Just what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd like to see a big change in the recording industry. For a long time, radio has actually been a tool used by advertising agencies as opposed to the music or the art, which is supposed to be in music. And I feel that this is a good opportunity, provided radio would decide to grab the reins, to really squeeze the label out who's been dictating what we all hear for far too long. It's really, they've kind of made it a cookie cutter thing. What's played is decided by market research, and which is done by advertising agencies, and it's no longer an art form. It's just music, and there are so many artists locally and otherwise that we'll never know about because the way everything has to fit this mold.
Yeah. So you're saying that if we were forced to change, like maybe like if the radio station saw the vision that you had, they would change. So if they promote newer stuff, and that newer stuff might be better than what's in the mainstream, like a new vision.
There's a big potential for that. It could possibly revert back to the golden days of radio, when the DJ was not only a mouthpiece in front of a microphone or a button pusher that goes down this list that's handed to him by his program director, which gets the list from an advertising agency. He would be digging up things that he feels in his heart and that move him, and in turn turning hordes of people on to things that they would not otherwise hear.
Okay.
Right now, you look at your mainstream radio, your typical commercial radio, and what you get is roughly the same songs every hour.
Yeah.
And I mean, where's the versatility or the variety in that? And people wonder why their life is boring. Well, if we had some new things popping off on the radio when we're in our cars, that might help a little bit.
All right. Now that's his opinion. Why he's in favor of the tax. Now I'll give the main consensus of why people would be against this radio performance tax, because as of is, songs they're free of charge to play, and since beginning of the golden era of radio, the whole purpose of radio was to bring music to the masses, if you will, and also people would hear a song on the radio, they'd like it, then they would go to the stores, like then they would go buy the album, simple formula, and the artists, they'd come in and do interviews, because most of the guests that come on radio, they're from the music world. They would play acoustic version of their show, or they would go on other outlets and say where you can hear their song, like on the radio, and it's worked for quite some time, and also radio stations are allowed to survive, and of course with radio stations, it's a place to work, it's a place where people can entertain the people at home, and you can advertise. Because of that, we get advertisements. Advertisements help pay for production equipment and for the mainstream radio hosts, especially in big time markets. And of course, that leads to the feeder systems such as college radio and other forms of radio or training. People have something to look forward to, like if they think they can get paid or that it's something they can have a career in, they can go and do that. And it's worked. It's kind of like the original Coke. It worked just fine, and then they try to bring the new Coke, and the new Coke tasted horrible. And this is quite a drastic change if this tax were to pass, because I think in what you said, even now, radio could still work even if we kept going the way it is now. We just have to stand up for ourselves. It makes it fun. Even myself, Daniel, we speak up. I try to speak against the mainstream audience. Like, I call them for their crap, and I try to be creative, and that is endearing. Like, people, it's out there. You can go. You just got to know who you're listening to, and in the DJ, they just need to be in the right format. And being in college radio probably allows me to do that. Perhaps with bigger stations that make money, that play the top 40 hot songs, they are restricted to playing that music list. Yeah, boo. I do disagree with that. But if anything, it is free. It's free of charge to play those songs, and those people have jobs, and we're struggling with the economy right now, and if people hate the idea of losing jobs, especially if people don't see the vision that you had of what radio stations could be. Like they're forced to push something new and try to compete. That may happen. That may not happen. That's a big risk. The economy plays a part in preventing. People need their jobs pretty much, and it's a good formula. We just need to keep striving forward, and that's why we're against the tax. It allows them because it'll take away opportunities for future talent and for future artists if that changes. So that's that's my Tyler Herman impersonation because he's not here. So I'll act as the in favor.
It was nice.
Well, thank you. We're going to get into round two. We will ask each other questions based on what we've heard so far, based on what we said in our opening statement. So now here's my question to you. If you said about how the radio stations that they exist, that they stay on board, this tax were to pass, they'd be forced to change, and maybe that could be a good thing that they could compete. I mean, that's kind of like that's easier said than done. What would happen if these stations? What would be alternative plans of these stations that do try to compete with the mainstream markets, assuming the tax is in place, like stations such as this one, WWSU, or even some low market independent station? How could they? What are their alternatives to competing if your way doesn't work?
Well, I tell you what, if my way doesn't work, they're pretty much hosed. I guess they would have to go to the news radio. But I honestly don't see how it could not work. If we dig up, let's say, I'm completely for radio. Radio is a huge, powerful tool, and I'm totally for radio. But I'm for independent radio. I'm for you getting your voice out there. And for the next DJ that's going to come in here in 2 hours or whatever, him getting his voice out there and his opinion and his love for music.
Yep.
And what would happen there is it would make you more powerful. It wouldn't be you're tucking your tail between your legs and running off. I'm for the tax, but I'm not for stations paying that tax. And I truly feel that it would have to work. I mean, it worked, in 1940. It worked in 1930 before there were record labels, big conglomerates controlling everything. It worked then, and it would have to work now. I believe what that would do is that would constrict the market to where it was more of a local avenue. It would provide a sense of community, if you will, to the listeners.
Yep.
To the staff even. The staff would feel a lot prouder about what they're putting out there because there would be ties to this community and the town.
Yeah.
And the advertising is there. It is a powerful tool. Radio reaches people. That's the bottom line. I think it's to a point where it doesn't matter what's on it. It being a powerful tool will bring the advertisers. So I don't see a potential fail. There's really no way now that this station can compete with a big time mainstream commercial radio station because of all the funds that pour through there.
Yes.
So why not shoot to the other side? Why not say, forget competing with you, we're going to do our own thing? I mean, it's what got radio kicked off initially.
Yeah.
DJs digging through boxes and boxes of records
way
at the
back
local
when.
record store. Yeah.
The world's changed though, but yeah, that's how radio got started to begin with. That spirit of we can perform, we can do something special.
Yeah.
Okay, now what's your question to me? Fire away.
My question to you is
I'm Daniel/Tyler, by the way. We determined that when we were at the break. Daniel/Tyler, because he's not here.
I don't understand, I guess, why you see it as such a downside when what it would do was it would basically put the power in your hands, and and if the radio stations chose to, they could actually flip it on the label and on the music industry, so to say, because who plays their music, who promotes their artists?
We do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you and now if you choose to pay the tax, yes, they'll all a lot of those stations like this will go bankrupt. And I tell you what, in
Mhm.
high school, I kept my tuner locked to 106.9
Uh huh.
because of the variety, because you were playing things that weren't coming on 103.9 or whatever every hour. On the commercial station every hour. You're
Yeah.
hearing the same 2 3 songs every 2 hours or so,
Okay.
and that was huge to me. I got hip to several artists that I would have never known otherwise about, and that grew my influences as an artist, expanded my mind and horizon. So my question to you is, how is that a bad thing?
Well, the way you describe it's not a bad thing, but it is a big risk. Like we have fantasies all the time. Like we can take down the giant, we can burn down the Roman Empire, but we gotta face reality though.
Someone did.
Well, a long time ago, but this is it's 2010. We're trying to, and like I said, if radio stations, I've seen in the articles all the time that there's stations are scrapping for money as it is now without the road performance tax. And we live in a society where the rich are getting rich and the poor are getting poor. And you need money to survive. You need funds coming in. You need to have fundraisers. And if that's not coming in, and you wind up getting bankrupt, and people have families also. And I wish it was different. I wish I was a rich guy or people that were rich. They volunteered at radio stations and worried about getting paid. But it was a job. It was once a, well, it kind of still is in most places. And I mean, ultimately, I mean, there's no result to that. Like, there's a big risk. Like, if the tax were to pass and we had to put 10% on each song we play, well, the major songs. Now, alternative songs, like you said, local artists, I do agree with that. Local artists, it's not, or even that it's unsigned. The quality of most local artists aren't that great, if you will. Some of them are good, and that's why it's a big risk. That's probably why they're local artists, because a lot of the people that do get signed eventually, they have shown a lot bit of talent. Most of them, anyway. They like bands. They performed in clubs for many years, and they had a big following, and eventually they got signed to a label. Like, think of all the big names in history. Like, you think of music, you think the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, U2, the Black Eyed Peas. Well, they're all associated to a label, and they get paid. They got a good, sweet deal, and that helps them with the marketing. And of course, that was back then. Now, to continue with that area, I know artists today that most of them do want to be independent to begin with. The more independent, the way that your vision would work is if major artists now, they too turn their backs on major record labels. Like, say there's like we have Beyonce and Rihanna, anyone big, Coldplay. Like, if they were to break their contract with the record labels and say we're going to be independent and radio stations, you don't have to charge for our music, that would help us a big lot. That would help us a lot, and then we could still be different. We wouldn't be tied at the same time. You wouldn't be tied down to corporate, because corporate would be in trouble. There are people they have signed under contract. It's all one big deal. I can envision other stations, they would do something different entirely to try to survive. You did hit on that point. Like, most stations do thrive on music. Some might focus on something completely different. Like, it might be 24/7 talk, or we might have on an all sports station, and there could be also comedy radio. Like, it could be all comedy bits. My question to you is, how can if a radio station, like, they need talent, they need advertisements to promote those. Do you have alternative solution to if they can't find advertisements for these new stations? That would, like, that's non music stations. What is your advice to find advertisement for these new alternative stations?
Well, first off, I would suggest just music stations.
Okay. Okay.
News is just for the most part gossip, I've come to find, and who needs that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to go back to the community. There needs to be a sense of community. It would be a hand-in-hand thing. I could go out and grab 4 or 5 artists right now that would love to come in and perform right this second.
Yep.
And they don't get the chance to because everybody's pushing this Britney Spears junk like you were talking about, which is really not art. It's a cookie cutter of the last boy/girl band hit, and that it's become the market. It's all about the money. What type of music is getting the bang for the buck from the advertisers, and it's choking the art out of it. If we would bring the art back to it, that would tie the radio station with the community where the art is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
There would be fundraisers where the radio station goes hand in hand with the artist. You know, I mean, really, I'm a songwriter myself, and
Mhm.
I almost live to write songs and to be able to cut records.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, that's huge to me. So I would do it for next to nothing. You know,
Uh-huh.
I know another couple handful of acts that would come out and do it for free just to get their name out, and that would spawn all kinds of other stuff coming out of the woodwork that would help with that, with fundraising, with, you know, commercial opportunities, you know, just all kinds of things, benefits, and you name it. It could all happen. It's just a matter of really localizing a whole lot more. You know, everybody nowadays is thinking national and global, and you know, but in that the community is lost and shattered. It's shattered with these delusions of grandeur that we all have. You know, I'm guilty
Mhm.
myself from time
Yeah.
to time, because the idea of community is already shattered. But at one time, the city of Dayton was together, pulling for its radio stations, its papers, its local pharmacists, you know. And I mean, really, we would have to go back to that, and I'd like to see that anyway, personally.
Mhm.
But the advertisers would come. I don't
Yeah.
know what strictly news radio.
Yeah, for the music stations that you mentioned.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, because it worked before. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I have to go back to that because it truly did,
Mhm.
and that was huge for so many teenagers. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, where would Foghat be? You know,
Yeah.
where would Love Hurts be? It wouldn't be Living in Infamy. I can tell you that.
Okay.
It would have never made the Days of Confused soundtrack.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good point. Now your question to me. Oh, before you ask this next question, how many more questions do you have for me? Like one or two more?
Right now, I have none, but I'm going to think of one.
Oh, you don't think of
I'm
one?
going to think of one for you right now.
All right. So, well, this will be the last question, then we'll go to break. We'll play some more songs, but think of something. Do.
Okay, what good, other than money? I keep hearing all this talk about money.
Okay.
Other than that, what good can come from things staying as is without this tax? I feel personally that
Mhm.
there needs to be a huge change. You see, I'm an art purveyor, though. I love art. I love people taking something that
Yeah, so do I.
they've
Yeah.
felt, that they've witnessed, and then turning it into something that was not.
Yes.
And right now, the industry is forced to push this cookie cutter stuff. And like I said, it just squeezes the life out of the art that was in it. And now it's just music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so other than money, what good comes from staying where it's at now?
Well, that is a good question. It does no good because I don't like the cookie cutter stuff that I had mentioned. The thing is, it's up to the rich people. These record executives, they are in charge. They have direct ties to the main stage. Like we have one main station that I'm referring to. I don't think I should mention their name, perhaps because I'm attacking them pretty hard. But the thing is, they are forced. They have someone at some point made a deal with these giant record executives. Like I'm trying to think of big record companies right now. There's Sony, there's the Warner Brothers. They're still around, and who else is there?
That's RCA.
RCA.
There's so many of them tied together, it's almost hard to.
Well, there's a guy. There's like a guy in that little office, that little box, kind of like behind the Wizard of Oz. There's a guy behind the curtain. Well, unfortunately, that's how it is, and they don't care about the audience because otherwise, we'll be hearing this crap. We wouldn't be hearing Keisha and Britney Spears 24/7 on the main big stream channels, or that's supposed to be the Hot 40. I hate to believe that there's music that's the best music that's out there. What's being played on the mainstream stations. There's so many good independent artists out there. But the way to stop that would be to confront the owner, like make the owner change his ways, write a letter, or challenge him or her, whoever it is. They'd have to change their mind because they have the money, and of course I'm not going to riot because then they'll get upset that I don't confront. you shouldn't riot. By the way, I'm not going to condone rioting. I want to get that out of the way. But you can write letters. We live in a country of freedom of speech, and we need to tell them, listen, you need to be fair. You need to make radio fun again, or quit listening to radio altogether. Like we do our stations, kind of like television and anything else in entertainment. We depend on the viewers. If there's no one watching radio or listening to radio, if you will, then that's going to kill advertisement altogether. And the audience, it is in their hands if they want it to be, but they are feeding to these big time corps, and it's their choice. They can write letters saying, we want you to play something different. We want you to change the format right now. Include this band, include this DJ, this radio personality, or have this debate. We want to hear that. We want to hear something different. Or they can quit listening altogether, and then everything would go down. Radio could ultimately die. Someone at home, they can use the radio to hear something they're not going to hear elsewhere. And we are back with Ohio's on Fire. I'm your host, Daniel. And we had some fan questions. Thank you for calling in. As this is our last round, we'll have fan questions and we'll have our closing statements. The first, me and Elron will both answer these questions. That's how that will work. One question was, the record labels, they didn't prepare for the internet movement with internet radio music. You can hear music there now. That's what it means by that question. But should we feel bad for the record labels because of the internet movement? And you can go first.
I'm gonna say no way. No way. They had a chance to hop on board when Napster first came out, and they were so worried about profit and yada yada that they didn't choose to look at the potential that was going to come of this huge internet thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Napster came out far after the initial prodigy, internet attempts, which were, feeble at best, but it was a growing thing, a growing beast, slowly being nurtured behind closed doors and server rooms,
Mm-hmm.
and they were so worried about the profits and this and that they failed to see the future of this thing.
Yeah.
And I mean that's a risk that you take in business. Business is a risky venture. Sometimes you win money, sometimes you lose money. And I don't think you can feel sorry for somebody that failed to take a wide angle panorama view of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
They were just worried about, don't take our money, you can't be taking our money, blah, blah, blah. And that's true. Nobody should take their money.
Yeah.
Stealing's not right. But as far as feeling sorry for somebody that wipes their fanny with hundreds, I don't think so.
All right. Now, for me to answer that question, I agree too. I do not feel sorry at all for the record labels, but I guess it's different. Thing is, they do have a job they got to do. Like they claim that like in any job, you're there because you got to do it, or you're there because you love doing it. And these record labels, my whole idea, like these record labels, they were working right now. They weren't at odds with everybody. The people that be working at record labels, they'd be music artists. They would be people that love music. Actually, they actually are experienced in playing music. But that is not the case. Currently, the record labels, they currently have people like the Lou Pearlman types that I mentioned earlier. A lot of, I'm trying to think who else. Attorneys. They got attorneys, and they got these flavors of the month. These female artists with the hot bodies, which I don't mind their hot bodies, but they can't sing, and that's not the point of music. They've taken the soul and the meaning out of music. I do not feel sorry for them because that's what they have done. They've poisoned the art of music in general. And I'm talking about mainstream record labels. There are some out there like independent. They do care. They're hard to find though, and they're struggling right now. People in the offices, they have their salaries they got to pay that's predetermined, and they'll give whatever's left over to the artists, and they'll find a way to screw them over somehow. They'll find. I mean, they've done it for decades already with the current system. They'll just continue to do it because we got full. It's full of dishonesty right now with the record labels. And now, the last fan question before our closing statement. So here's this. If a small-time radio station such as WWSU were to go out of business, where will the viewers go, and where will the entertainment talent go, like the radio personalities? Where will we all go for our alternatives? Now, you go first.
I'll tell you where you would all go. You would all go where all local underground great artists go, and that's off into oblivion.
Oblivion.
And that's
oh wow.
And that's why I'm so ready to see this industry turned onto its head, because you just ask the question of what happens to those artists that don't get discovered because they don't have huge record label money. You know, the artists that we all know and love that are signed to these huge labels, they've got so much money behind them that they are on posters in every CD store. They're on the radio. They're, you know, you see them at bus stations on billboards. You hear them, you know, in movies. And local guys who are just beautiful musicians at times and really have something to say, to contribute to the art scene, to the community in general, or just to a philosophical mindset. You know, we don't know them. We don't know them, and that's what would happen. That's what would happen to those radio DJs that are giving us the variety, and that is exactly what those labels want. They want it to be, you know, they want to get it down to uniform, monochromatic, so they don't ever have to think, and so everything's just like it was last time, and there's never a shift in the budget, and there's never a loss. It's all just profit, 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 which is why, you know, every song sounds like the last one almost nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, within its genre, that is, but, you know, they'd be gone off into oblivion, just like all those artists that we're
That's
never going
sad.
to hear, that we're never going to know, that we're never going to feel. If you know, are into art like I am, you really feel this stuff, and some of it moves you, you know, and you don't get that listening to the radio too often. I can tell you that. But you know, when I go digging for songs from these no names off of certain soundtracks or yada yada, what have you, there's a little art there.
Okay, now it's time for me to answer that question. Now, Oblivion, perhaps some of them would go into Oblivion, like if they just went there because they needed a job and then it suddenly went away. I guess there would be less talent that the world would have gotten to hear, or would have had a chance, with less talent that would have had a chance to break out. Thing is, if you really care about something, like you know that exists, and you want it to happen, like I've mentioned, this is the United States of America. We still have the freedom. I mean, you can still start radio stations. You would just need money, or I would find a much cheaper alternative, like maybe someone that's really smart. We use radio boards. We got these nice, fancy, expensive equipment. I'll show you with the camera.
Is nice.
It's nice, by the way. But you have to. I mean, it costs a lot of money, and then it just does. And if someone could find a way to make things cheaper, and make it sound just as nice as it used to, and then we get people to care, or promote it in a new way. Like maybe you can mix the idea of radio with something that's existing. Like before I get to that example, I'll talk about the cars that we have in America. The biggest automobile, the most popular one, is definitely the car. We all use it to get around in, most adults, and it's been around for over 100 years actually, and it's evolved. We've found new ways to use new engine. We've had new oils. We're now electronic now. We've had new models. The car has evolution. We've gone through an evolution of cars. And basically radio, if people really wanted to keep it alive, and without doing something illegal, they have to go for an evolution. Use radio in a new way that's never been used before. And go around what the corporate marks and the big money makers that want to change everything and make everything for themselves and get rid of the little guy. We got to work around that, and by true passion that can work. And using college education, you got to be smart. Like maybe you invent equipment that you can use for this new model, and just find a way. Because even years ago, 20 years ago, no one thought the internet would ever happen. I mean, it's commonplace nowadays, but you'd be surprised what people are inventing every day. And radio would have to go through a cool invention and an evolution, and that's how it would. That's where the people would go. The people that really cared about it, they would stay somehow and make something new, create evolution. So that's my answer.
They would dig up that local art that was right under their nose the whole time.
The local art, yes, you mentioned that to me. Local art form, where they could try to get. So they would go to Congress and say that music is an art, and maybe what was your argument on that?
If they were presenting it as an art, yes. If
Okay.
they were, promoting that commercial, run of the mill stuff. I can't say that's art. I mean, there are a whole lot of people that will tell you it will, especially if you're talking to the exec of the label that the act is signed to.
Mm-hmm.
But music didn't just used to be music. It used to have something to say.
Okay.
It used to make you emote. It used to make you feel something.
Yeah, I agree.
And a DJ that was, like you said, really passionate about it, really felt that he or she were doing their thing, what they were meant to do, they would stay with it. They wouldn't go anywhere. They would make it work.
Okay.
That's what people who love something do, who are on fire and passionate about something.
Yes.
They make it work one way or the other.
All right. Now, we'll get to our closing statement. Do you want me to start, or do you want to start with it? This is our final statement, kind of like our opening statement, but we're just closing it out. Do you want me to start?
You go right ahead, Parker.
I'll start, and then you. All right. Here's my closing statement. Like I said, things are really rough right now. I know that it's tough to find hope in a time where the rich are getting rich, and you know the rest of it. I've said it many times. And radio, it does work. I don't think there's nothing broken about the current radio system. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just the big rich people that don't care about anybody. It's pure greed, and the greedy executives, they're the ones that went to Congress and tried to make this possible to begin with. And it's the reason why it might pass sometime in 2011, at least temporarily. And all artists and other radio personalities will be fighting over it for years if it passes. And hopefully it just goes away. It's a lot closer than I thought it would be. And I do like the idea that you mentioned, you've been saying all night, that stations, they stayed around, the smaller stations, they would be forced to change. And I do think it would work that they couldn't use music. Maybe they can do like an all sports radio station or an all video game station, something that deals with a lifestyle. I think they just have to find advertisement. You say it's just for music, that's your opinion. And you would be forced to change. And I like to think that we do need to change anyway, because we've gone to this point that we're struggling. Radio in general is struggling. We need to change. And now that's what I'm about. That's what my career is going to be based on. I'm not going to bow down to big money greed. Well, the better way to put it, I'm not going to be greedy. I'm not going to do something I don't believe in. There's a difference between people that has a lot of money, which I hope to be one of those people. I do want to make a lot of money, but I want to make it doing the thing that I'm doing. That because I'm smart, I've been in college. I don't need to be a stooge for some corporate butthead, if you will. Yeah, I got cheer for that. Anyway, so that is my answer. We need to change. We don't need to tax to force us to change radio. We need to find ourselves, do the best we can with radio anytime we get, and put a product out there and bring a generation together. Because our generation, we're in trouble right now. People my age, 25 and younger, we need hope. So we need to start standing up for ourselves. So take it away, Elron. What is your closing statement?
Well, I can only hope in the future that as far as radio goes, that people keep their jobs. At least those that are passionate about radio, that have a portion of their heart in it. I hope to hear a variety of things. I hope to hear different voices. I hope to hear different tones. I hope to hear several different genres coming out of the radio on the same station. That's one thing I love about this station. And
well, thank you.
That I will always remember. In high school at parties, I would kick this on because of the just such versatility, and that was huge to me. And you kick on the radio now, and it's just blasé. It is pretty much monotonous.
Okay.
Every now and again you might get stirred if you happen to have been living under a rock.
Okay.
But other than that, it's same old, drilling you again with the same old stuff. And I hope to hear artists that you wouldn't have heard.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, I would put a lot of money on if the Beatles came as they were back then to a label today, that they would get laughed at and kicked out of there.
Yeah.
Because of the way they wanted, so monotonous. And it was very different. That was what was huge about the Beatles. It was a whole new thing of music. And I have to say, start feeling it. People, don't stop just bobbing your head when you're in your car. Don't just bob your head to any old thing. Look for something, somebody that's saying something to you, somebody that's pulling at your heartstrings, somebody that's making you think. That's what we should have with radio. Whether it be talk radio even. If you listen to talk radio, let it be somebody that gets you going one way or another, that makes you feel. Because so many times people get just set in their ways and don't even feel alive through the day in and day out. And to me, that's what a good song does. It makes me feel alive, or a good thought brought on by a talk DJ, and that's what people need. There's this huge infidelity rate and divorce rate, and how much of that comes down to just everything being the same day in and day out, and somebody just needing something different. Why not start with the music?
Okay. I tell you, Elron, I'm so glad you came in. You're a very thoughtful person.
Well, thank
And
you.
we round of applause to everyone. We'll give ourselves a pat on the back.